Hello students, welcome to Legacy IS. In this video, we are going to assess how was the prelims 2026 paper. It is an assessment, it is an evaluation of the prelims paper that was there in 2026 that happened on 24th of May. Now, the first instance, when you look at the paper is definitely difficult and it definitely has various kinds of absurd questions and such kind of facts are asked which are not of high quality as well. That is, you should not be memorizing these facts when you are appearing for an examination of this stature. All right. The thing is that most of this prelims questions, they must be attuned to testing whether you have a correct conceptual framework or not, rather than just rote learning and memorizing the deeper facts which anyone may or may not know. All right. So this assessment will tell us there are certain questions that we have seen and we feel it should either not make it to the prelims question paper, or this might be something that can be removed from the prelims paper. Okay. It should also serve as a guideline, like for example, what kind of questions have been there in the previous years. You will see there has been a continuous trend, and because of that we understand that a student is required to prepare in such a way. Okay? And that is what makes sense. It makes sense because the student is trying to achieve success. They are trying to get selected year after year. And when such kind of a paper appears, when it has so much amount of rote learning, so much amount of absurdity in the paper, it demoralizes the students. It is not only absurd with respect to the paper, it is also something that is unethical. It is disrespecting the kind of effort that every aspirant is putting. Okay, so just as a reminder, and just as as a kind of us being empathetic to the situation of the aspirants, let us just try to see what the kind of questions are and what are they trying to ask you. And for understanding these kind of questions, or for you to attempt them correctly, what was actually that was needed, and whether this need was justified in a exam like this. Okay, so first of all, the overall evaluation of this paper. First of all, yes, no doubt, it is a difficult paper. Okay, difficult paper. But when we say, is it fair difficulty, right? Of course, there have been difficult question papers in the past also. If we look up in the previous year questions, yes, 2016, for example, 2016 was an easy paper. 2017, you will progressively see that the cutoff reduces, and that points towards the direction that the papers were being made in a difficult mode. Okay, although those papers broadly remained within the contours of the syllabus that was prescribed. Okay, that means you can stay within the syllabus, and again you can go for tough questions. You can build difficult questions in those contours of the syllabus itself. But this was not fair difficulty. What do we mean by fair difficulty? It means that it tested those kinds of facts, or those kinds of rote learning or memorizing of facts that is not required for a person who is going to hold the office of an IAS officer. All right. So it was not fair difficulty, right? A lot many of things that needed to be memorized were very deep facts, and those were not related to the broad frameworks that an IS officer or a generalist is supposed to do. All right. It is very difficult to answer those questions. Second, many questions rewarded obscure recall over understanding. Okay, again, as an IS officer, you are required to go through a lot many documents, a document which has multiple pages. Okay, because once the law is implemented, you have to follow the law from the next day onwards, right? So you need to have the idea of the frameworks. That means the broad understanding of a lot many things is required. But deeper understanding and deeper memorization of facts, even smaller details, is not something that is expected. All right. So this exam, it is rewarding to whom? To the ones who are able to remember. Okay, who are able to remember those factual information, and those factual information are very very deep, and they are of low value. It is not going to help you build an understanding or build a framework for your preparation as well, a framework for your administration as well. All right. Third, current affairs became headline and fact sheet memory. All right. Year after year, it becomes easier for people to crack prelims only when the static portion, that means the static portion, that is history, geography, environment, what are the concepts? It is mostly something that is based upon the conceptual part. Okay? So there are factual content in the static part also, that is understood. If you go and ask about the factual part in the static content, that is not much of a big issue. Okay? Even if people are not able to answer it, it is within the syllabus and it will be touted as a difficult question. That is, there is no problem with that. However, difficult questions and with respect to the current affairs, okay, that means current affairs, you will have to read each and every current affairs. You will have to go through the PIB summaries of every day. Every day you will have so many news articles in the PIB summaries also, right? It is not possible. It is not humanly possible to know about every issue in this great detail as was asked in the paper. Okay? The fourth thing, IR, science, culture, environment, it often became matching table questions. Matching table questions. That means, in some questions you will find that the abbreviation is being used and the year in which it was established. For example, the UN peacekeeping missions. Okay, this kind of question is only testing you whether you know about the facts or not, and that too not the recent facts, not the ones that matter at present, the ones that were there long time back. Okay, so this was matching the table. Okay. Core problem, the difficulty was there. Yes, difficulty was there, but low value. Low value that does not help understand whether the aspirant understands, grasps the concepts, grasps the framework, and is able to make good decision or not. Okay, it was not high level thinking, not high level thinking. Okay, so all kinds of difficulty are not at the equal pedestal. Okay, there are very good papers that have been made in the past and they have been difficult, and there have not been complaints from the aspirant or the aspirants or the people who are attempting these papers. Okay, the complaint arises, all of this complaint arises because the difficulty that was posed by this paper was of low value. Okay, it felt something kind of uh, at the part of UPSC it felt even. All right, so let us see some of these questions. Before that, Legacy IS is going to launch this mains edge test series program. Now, whoever, I understand that there has been the provisional key and you would be assessing whether you will be making it to the mains or not. I would suggest that if you are in the range of 70 plus, please start preparing for your mains, especially starting with certain subjects like essay, ethics, and your optional. It is very, very important because it is going to decide whether you get a rank or whether what your rank would be. All right. And in this, we are starting with the mains edge test series program 2026. And this is along with one-to-one personal mentorship. You will get the daily targets, you will get 30 plus mains tests, and you will also get the evaluation tracking. So whoever is getting 70 plus, please try to enroll into this mains program, and so that your answer writing can begin from right now. All right. Second, this is also an add-on in the personal mentorship. So this is for 8,999. This one is 18,999. All right. Now moving forward, let us see some of the questions. So this question is about zero FIR. Okay, zero FIR report. Now the thing is, zero FIR was in news. All right. Zero FIR was in news, and therefore it is justified that you ask a question about it. But asking such kind of pertinent questions in which you are supposed to know the provisions line by line, or you are supposed to follow the cases in order to have your understanding. Okay, now this question about zero FIR. Okay, this statement, first, a zero FIR can be lodged at a police station even though a place of commission of a cognizable or non-cognizable offense is outside the territorial jurisdiction of that police station. Now this is completely wrong statement. Okay, this is completely wrong because non-cognizable offense you cannot do so. Okay, this is wrong. Let us read the third statement. Under zero FIR, it is obligatory for the informant to furnish information electronically. Okay, this is also wrong. Why it is not obligatory only electronically? It is also, if you see 173 clause 1, section 173 of Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, you'll find that it is orally or by electronic communication. So this statement is also wrong. Okay, so reading the second statement now, here is the problem. Okay, the officer in charge of the police station where a zero FIR has been lodged may, with the permission of the competent authority, initiate a preliminary inquiry. Now, here is the problem, that it is stated in 173 clause 3 section 173 clause 3. You can see this article, that first of all what happens is that FIR has to be registered in case of a cognizable offense. Okay, that is 173 clause 1. All right, but 173 clause 3 says that in case that you are going for certain types of cases, the preliminary inquiry has to be conducted, and after that the FIR will be registered. Okay, this this part of preliminary inquiry is in 173 clause subclause 3. Okay, so this is something that has to happen before the registration of FIR. Okay, and in this case you'll find that this statement, what is it talking about? Where a zero FIR has been lodged, that means FIR has been already registered, and then the preliminary inquiry may be initiated. Now this again is a absurd statement. Okay, or it can be correct only in certain situations, but this, the framing of the sentence is wrong. Okay, it is saying that after zero FIR, you are going to check whether this offense is a cognizable offense or not. That is what the preliminary inquiry is for. Preliminary inquiry tests whether it is going to be cognizable offense or non-cognizable offense, and also it also tests why the preliminary inquiry is there, to test whether the case is frivolous. All right, in this case you'll find that this is a wrong statement. The statement itself is wrong. So all the three statements are wrong here. Okay, either the framing was not correct, the design of the options was not correct. Okay, maybe they wanted to ask you not. So this kind of a question, this is wrong. Okay, and people and aspirants would waste a lot of time in analyzing these statements and trying to recall these sections. Okay, that means they are supposed to know these sections thoroughly, only then they can answer these type of questions. Okay, I'll show you another example. This is from the subject of environment. Okay, which of the following statements in relation to nirantar? Okay, so first of all, you are supposed to know each and every vertical. First of all, each and every vertical, and based on this, you should also know it comes under which institution. Which institution? Okay, Indian Institute of Forest Management, Bhopal. Okay, now this is again a fact heavy question. Okay, it is very difficult to even know which schemes belong to which ministry, okay, or which departments. Even to memorize the governance system, we have to memorize the ministry, and there are 50-60 ministries, and in this maybe you will just go for the important ones. Let us say 20 ministries that are more important than the others. Let us try to memorize them. Then the departments under them, then the implementing agencies for various kinds of schemes, various kinds of flagship schemes. This is what the aspirant regularly has to memorize, and this is important from the policy implementation point of view as well, for which this post is for, right? But you are to memorize this also. This is highly factual. So this as a topic is fair. We are not saying that every difficult question or every absurd question is difficult and it is unfair to ask about this. Yes, you can ask about this, it is not a problem. Okay, but the kind of things that you are asking, that is something that is questionable. Okay, so you see, asking this vertical wise lead institutions, this is very excessive. This is excessive because it is not something that you can quickly recall within an exam, and considering that you have to memorize and you have to understand so many things as well. It tests ministry organization memory, and does not test any environment understanding. Okay, it is mainly, it on the face of it, it appears to be a question from the environment, but rather it is a question on the governance system. Okay, that means it tries to reduce, the understanding from this question is that you have to try and reduce the amount of duplicacy in the work of the government. Okay, this is a kind of refinement in the governance system, and that is the understanding that it should have tested, right? Problem: aspirant may know the scheme but still fail due to internal mapping. That means the governance structures, it might not be completely clear. You might make a mistake here. Okay, and this kind of a factual depth is something that aspirants don't usually prepare for. Neither have the previous year questions asked on such a deep level. All right. Next question. This is an absolutely absurd question. Absolutely absurd question. Why? What is the reason? You see, you read the question itself. X born in UK, okay, born in UK was conferred the Nobel Prize in 2025. He was a professor in an American university when this prize was announced. Okay, this is again an absurd question. Why? For the reason that a prelims paper for civil services should test for which subject was he given the Nobel Prize for. What was his subject? Okay, what was the study that he conducted? Okay, what was so advanced about his studies? What was the findings of his research? Instead, they chose to ask you about the biography. That means the life events of the Nobel Prize winner. Okay, are we supposed to know about the personality? Is this personality going to be relevant 4 to 5 years down the lane when I am going to administer a district? Okay, is this understanding important, or is this factual information important in selecting the administrators of the future country? Right. So this is absurd. So it is fair to ask about Nobel Prize, but in the garb of Nobel Prize, what you are asking? You're asking the life events of a person. Okay. Question tested biography, not scientific contribution. If you had tested, if you have talked about Nobel Prize, there has been questions on Nobel Prize. There has been questions on CRISPR-Cas9 in the biotechnology part. That is very well justified because you are testing the concepts. But right now, in this type of question, you are just asking whether you know about the life events of this person. Okay? Even if this was an Indian scientist, then also it can be justified. Right? They talk about the contribution of Indian scientists in the mains paper. Right? Even if this was a contribution from the Indian scientist, then also a life event, then also it might not be as justified, but still people should know about the scientists. People should know about the Indian contributions, and that is why we would have said, chalo, this is something that is commonly known. But asking this type of question, it's absolutely absurd. Third thing, no conceptual testing, but just memorization of facts. So aspirants may understand the discovery, but still lose marks. Okay, as an aspirant, I would just prepare for the concept. I would just prepare for the mechanisms. I would just go for understanding the possible future applications of this kind of discovery or this kind of research. All right. Moving forward. Now again, coming to this question, consider the following statements with regard to the film boom. Okay, usually you will find that there are art and culture questions. Okay, art and culture, you will find a number of topics, whether it is painting, architecture, theater, puppetry. Okay, something that we feel that we should be proud of our heritage as well. All right, usually these are the type of questions that you will see in the previous year question trend analysis as well. All right, asking about this question. Okay, it is definitely fair, proud cultural moment, but what they are testing is award category. Award category. Okay, you can see the question. First, it has won the BAFTA award in children's and family film category. Whether it has won in this category or not, how will I memorize it? Okay, it is something. If you have prepared for the banking level exams, or if you have prepared for other types of or state services exam, you will find that these kind of current affairs are especially there. Okay, which hold no relevance in the future administration, but it is just to check whether you know about the current affairs or not. Okay, it is going to be plain memorization. That means you memorize it today, you forget it tomorrow. Not useful for selecting people in administrative post as I has this. Okay, this is the first Indian film to win a BAFTA award in the children's family film category. That means you will need to know all the others as well if you have to eliminate the statement also. Okay, so this is not something that is going to be productive. All right, it is no real test of Manipur, cinema, culture, or soft power. These are the things that UPSC should frame on. Okay, that means about the state itself. Okay, about the things that are mentioned. Okay, about the pride in the heritage that we take, the culture, the soft power that it is going to. induce with respect to our neighboring countries. All right. Problem, this rewards the headline memorization from an unconventional topic. First of all, the topic itself is unconventional. Okay, usually we will see that there are one or two questions like this, but when it is clubbed with absurdity of the other questions, it becomes much more difficult for the aspirant. On the face of it, a person who is going to this exam becomes more fearful, and it is in a way they say that we are checking the temperament, but it is not actually the temperament. It is just that you want to shock the aspirants by giving such kind of questions. All right. So this is something that is cannot be accepted in good faith. Which of the following international conventions, look at this question. Now the keys have arrived. This question has been dropped. This question has been dropped. Okay. It is wrong because the Geneva Conventions can include the others also. Okay. So this is not only it is something that is going to waste the time of the aspirant who is trying to attempt this question, trying to get that extra 2 marks. It is also something that is dropped in the provisional answer key, right? It is to say that UPSC has so much amount of time to prepare this question paper, and still in the recent years you will see that one or two questions get dropped. Okay, what about the time that I have spent on solving this question? What about the, if I arrive at the correct answer, if the correct answer was there and I arrived at it, what kind of marks am I getting? Is it not jeopardizing my success? So it mixes labor law. I probably think that this is from the EPFO questions. That means people preparing for EPFO, they would be the ones that would be able to answer these type of questions, or they are expected to answer these type of questions. And then also this question is wrong. It feels like the UPSC has a mix of questions from all the exams it conducts, and it has placed one of the questions in this question paper. Okay. Tests treaty database memory. It may even be answer key vulnerable if Geneva Convention is treated wrongly, and that has already happened, and the dropping of this question is there in the provisional answer key, right? So it is forced. People are forced to memorize this ratification based tables. Now this question, absolutely, who will know about this? Very difficult. Even you have not given the full form of all of these things. Okay? It is UN peacekeeping operation. What you're supposed to ask about UN peacekeeping operation? How does it operate? Okay, for all which kind of purposes was it there? Whether India participated in it or not? Okay, what has been the contribution of UN being like in keeping peace with respect to the current type of war crisis? Whether it is with Iran and US, whether it is with US, whether it is with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, whether UN has been able to go for keeping the peace, international peace in order or not. This type of a concept should have been tested. All right, but what is tested is a plain memorization, and that too UN mill, minor cat, minus the and my set. That too, see the number, see the years. The range of years is something that is not recent. Okay, it is not also going to be something that will appear very easily. Only one time or two time also, it is not going to appear in your regular course of seeing things. Okay, your news also, and whenever it appears, you are not going to be so attentive, because this is something that is happening in the last part. So what is the breadth of the current affairs? What is the length and the breadth of the current affairs that you are going to ask? Current affairs is almost history. Okay. Why absurd? It is a valid topic, yes, valid topic, but in the garb of this valid topic, what has been asked? Exact years, old missions. These are low value facts, abbreviations and dates. They are not testing the principles. They are just testing whether you know these full forms or not. Okay, it might have been a bit more justified if you had just placed these full form of this abbreviation. Maybe that would have been easy to for us to correlate whether this particular event happened in these ranges of years or not. Okay, so understanding UN peacekeeping was not enough. Somebody who understands the broad guidelines, the broad principles, not happening here. Okay, next, again, very factual question. Bureau of Indian Standards recently introduced a national standard to test this. The new standard is known as this. ठीक है, how are you supposed to know this? ठीक है, even if you know this, how would you know that this is the number? Or you should have seen this multiple times, right? So first, internal security and standardization. Okay, first you should test about the internal security, that is with respect to the bomb disposal system. You should talk about internal security. Okay, you can talk about what are the standardizations. Okay, or what are the threats to internal security. Maybe those kind of questions would have made much more sense. But exact BIS code number is excessive. You cannot you cannot expect the aspirants to memorize it. Okay, it texts current affairs, not only current affairs but micro current affairs recall. Okay, so this is again pure memorization and low value fact that you needed to memorize. Only then this kind of questions can be cracked. Again, in the line of this low value fact, you have this BIMSTEC is important. Yes, they have asked about G20 also. They have talked about international organizations. They have asked about World Bank. They have asked about IMF. They have asked about the reports also they publish. Okay, but now they are asking about the locations. Okay, this is also low value fact, right? Important, yes, center location mapping is weak testing. Okay, it is no focus. There is no focus on understanding whether there is Act East, Bay of Bengal connectivity or strategy. So it is basically institutional address book memory. That means you need to memorize this and then you will be able to perform in such kind of questions. All right. So all of these questions, when we talk about all of these questions, it is like there is difficulty. Okay, I have just placed these questions. There are multiple other questions also. Okay, so this requires you not only, now this is one of the previous year questions, this is one of the previous year trends. So now what the future aspirants who are writing in 2027, what are they expected to know? What are they going to prepare for? Are they going to prepare for current affairs? Okay, how many questions were there from current affairs? Many questions were there, 33, 34, 35. And they are also not checking just the broad headlines, they are just checking the deeper facts. Okay, so how are you going to prepare? Okay, it is important that we stick to the static portion, we stick to the current affairs in a limited fashion. You cannot go for, and you should also not attempt to go for preparing for all the PIB summaries for all the days of the year. It is going to be virtually impossible to remain sane when you are understanding, you are memorizing these data facts in such great detail. All right, and neither should you be tested upon it. All right, so I feel that this paper was unjustified and it was not scientifically made for the selection of people to such posts. Thank you so much.